Okay, it's Eddie Redmayne. By the way, I was Googling 2018, 17 Oscar winners, male British Oscar winners, but all of a sudden, his name just appeared the front of my cortex, whatever I think with. And I did remember this on my own. I just want you to know that, class. Now, so events, yes. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, don't do that to me. And then more events for Versace, British Vogue signing of some interesting actress, Naomi Campbell, signing. So all the special things they can do. Now, this is the rate card, and it is expressed in the pounds. And a pound is worth a bit more than $1. 2020. So if you just take an ad anywhere they can put you, all throughout the Britain, 30,290 pounds, they can put you where they want. It's like run a press, right? If you want a page facing matcher, which means content, so it's probably going to be a right-hand page because content will be on the left, 37,210. If you want to start haggling for a position, you're paying a little more. If you want to be at the beginning of the magazine, around the table of contents, opposite the masthead, the price goes up. Inside back cover, price goes up. Outside back cover, price goes up. Inside front cover gatefold, which is 4 pages, that's the big money. A barn door is when you have an ad, you open the ad, and there are 2 folding pages facing you, and you can fold each of them back, have this wonderful spread out 4-page ad. There's the price of that. And there you go with different things. Now, there's the cost of scent strips also included. You can see if you go back up and look on the right-hand side of this particular piece. And there you go, branded content. So if you get, Vogue to shoot something for you or make a film or create content, you'll see that in the lower right-hand side of the first page. And then the online prices are on the right-hand side here. Different sections, homepage, news, catwalk, beauty, people and parties, trends. These are the tabs you can click to. Standard ads. Now you can target geographically, by region, by device, phone versus PC. They're costing this out and a cost per 1,000. See the CPM? That's cost per 1,000, as we know, 1,000 impressions. You can be in emails to their subscribers. People have opted in for the emails. And so there you go. Now they're organic and targeted, you can't see, but there are also some social packages they can do for you. That tells us a lot about what people are buying because they're selling what people can buy. Here are the production schedules. I'll ask you to note that let's look at the March 2020 issue. You have to have a contract in by December 13th. Any creative you've done has to be done by December 17th. And by the 10th of January, if you've got an insert to go in, that's got to be there for the March issue by 10th of January. The March issue of Vogue Britain 2020 goes on sale January 31st. So this is just underlining the lead times. You've got a several-month lead time for materials. You get them the materials, and it takes them 2 months to get the issue out. So it's not a fast turnaround. It's not a fast response tactical, combating competitors with better offers. It's a branding device for the printed magazine, right? That's what it's about. You're branding yourself to a very devoted audience. Here are the people you want to talk to if you want to get an ad in. There's the publishing director we saw at the beginning of the presentation, Vanessa Kingori, who's a member of the British Empire, which is kind of amazing. Then on the left, you have the sales team. You've got someone who specializes in watches and jewelry. So obviously that's a huge piece for them. And you've got some other people here. Corporate partnerships is in the middle here, specialists. This is most likely, this is going to be if you want to buy or have a relationship with other magazines owned by Condé Nast Britain. There are people who will create a corporate, company-wide package for you, throughout a bunch of the publications that you might be interested in, and give you special deals and special value added if you do that. And that is the end of the rate card for Vogue Britain. And beautifully produced piece and very informative, hopefully, for you guys. I hope. And in the realm of the business of print, in the U.S., the players are the biggies who are still there in print. Condé Nast, who we've just seen with Vogue Britain. Condé Nast owns. I'm not even going to show you all the magazines they own, but I've mentioned a number of them, whether it's Vogue, it's Vanity Fair, which I've read for years, it's the New Yorker, it's GQ, it's Bon Appetit, Architectural Digest, and others. Hearst magazines we've also talked about, and the magazines they own, if I can think of a couple of them, it's Cosmopolitan, it's Esquire magazine for men, it's they own a lot of car magazines, which they bought actually from Hachette, Road and Track, Car and Driver they own. I think they own Elle. If I'm not mistaken, they bought Elle. You guys can look that up and tell me if I'm wrong. You can email me. But they continue to be Good Housekeeping. They continue to be a big player in magazines. Meredith, we haven't really talked about yet. Meredith is a kind of a different kettle of fish, very smart operator. The company's headquarters are actually in Des Moines, Iowa, because they started publishing magazines for farmers and farmers' families. And they now own, they have a big office in New York, but they own TV stations, they own lots of magazines. They actually bought a number of the Time Incorporated titles. When Time magazine, Time, all those titles went on the block, they kept the parenting titles that Time Inc. owned. They also publish a number of women's so-called magazines. Red Book is one, Ladies' Home Journal is one, House and Garden is one, anyway, they have a lot of magazines, and they're a big, successful publisher. Now, Time Inc., I used to have in this chart, but then I used my clever PowerPoint talents to try to scratch that out because it doesn't exist anymore. So that company, founded by Henry Luce with Time magazine in 1923 that you saw, that then went on to publish Life magazine, which is mostly pictures. Of course, Time magazine was mostly text. Life magazine was every week different pictures, very popular. Had a competitor also with pictures called Look magazine. Time Inc. also had Fortune magazine, it had Money magazine, it had Sports Illustrated, People magazine coming out in 1974. All the magazines, everything's sold. There's no more Time Inc., folks. The guy who bought Time magazine is Mark Benioff here on the left, who is the founder and CEO of a company called Salesforce.com. You'll see the Salesforce building here in Manhattan at 42nd and 6th Avenue. Salesforce, for those of you who don't know, is a business-to-business customer relationship management platform. Very successful, very, very big company. He's still publishing time. I used to get it, and I'm waiting for this week's issue. It's still weekly. It's very thin, very little advertising in it, but it's still kind of valiantly coming out in print, having a man of the year or person of the year, and still doing its best to have an impact on our culture, although a much diminished form from what it used to be in its heyday. Sports Illustrated, also from Time Inc., by the way, was sold. I think, yes, Hachette bought it as part of the Meredith bought it, as part of the package, but didn't want it. It just didn't fit with their stuff, and so one way or another, it was sold off to an online sports company for very little money. They closed the print edition, and all the reporters, the people who for years had specialized in basketball and football and soccer and everything else, all these long-term reporters let go. And so they've kept the title Sports Illustrated, the brand Sports Illustrated. I'm really not sure what they're doing with it. This is from your book. This shows, as of 2017, top magazines in the U.S. by audience. This includes circulation and pass along and everything else. You can see Time and Sports Illustrated in there. AARP, the magazine, which goes automatically to anyone who turns 55 years old, who joins the American Association of Retired People. So when you count circulation and pass along and everything else, you end up with some pretty big numbers, ostensibly, for a lot of these players. And this is from your book, from the new edition of your book. Now, I want to talk about print ad impressions and measurement, because here we have this total audience. So what is a print advertising impression? And as it says here, they're difficult to track. But if you look at the yellow, basically anyone who subscribes to or acquires to a magazine is counted as an impression for your ad. So there's no measurement that I'm aware of whether they actually saw your ad or read every page in the magazine. But if you buy an ad, then it's multiplied, by the way, sorry for the back and forth, by the pass-along rate. So all the people who you pass the magazine along to. So the circulation is taken times 2.65. That's how many impressions you get. So if you buy, here we are back here, an ad in People magazine, you're assumed to get 40,262,000 impressions. And again, you don't know how many people saw your ad. You don't know if the position you bought had any effect. But those are supposed to be included in your media plan as impressions that you got. So, ... question mark, question mark, question mark, in terms of measurement there. Right? A little iffy. Also, however, just as with we saw with Out of Home, with the subway ad, for instance, where you've got 10 or 12 or so different ads on the side of the subway, inside of the subway car, the subway interior. All those ads are one impression. And it's the same way if you take out a multi-page ad or an ad with a scent strip in a magazine, that's still just one impression. So the overall impression measurement, questionable, but there is possibility for more depth of sale in the impressions. This is something in the actually current edition of Vanity Fair. I still get Vanity Fair, but I'm about to discontinue it. I've gotten it for years. They have a new editorial director, and I'm not so crazy about it so far. But anyway, this is the inside cover gatefold. So if I open the front cover Vanity Fair, this is the two pages that face me. But then I can flip over that left-hand page. You can see I can kind of grab that. And when I flip it over, I now have this as the gatefold. So all of this is just one impression. So just recognize that I could have a 20-page, insert with scent strips in a magazine. I'm still getting one impression. So a lot of depth of sale. They don't use it for the copy